As we contemplate Obama's amnesty that was issued unilaterally by executive order, it would be wise to look back to 1952, which was the last time a president attempted anything so bold as a seizure of power, when President Truman nationalized the steel mills, and the Supreme Court ruled that he couldn't do it. In this case, the Korean War was going on. It was 1952, and Truman was the president. And there was a threat of a steel workers' strike. And the steel union and the steel mills were at loggerheads. The issue was a union shop banning the employment of non-union workers. And it was a very, very feisty dispute. The steel workers said, "We are going to strike if the mills don't give us what we want." Truman, then on the verge of the strike deadline, seized the steel mills, nationalized them, and put them under federal control. Once that happened, the strike couldn't happen because, in effect, the strikers were working for the government, and the strike did not go on. And I think Truman may have granted them a temporary wage increase, such as they were requesting. And the steel mills immediately sued to get an injunction to block the takeover of the steel mills. And it went up fairly quickly to the Supreme Court because it was an injunction. It wasn't a long-term case that would take years to reach the court, but this was an injunction to stop the president's order from taking effect. And when the injunction was challenged, the lower courts upheld the injunction, said Truman could take the steel mills, at least temporarily. But when it went to the U.S. Supreme Court, by a vote of 5-3, the court said that Truman was off base. They said the Constitution did not give him the power to seize the steel mills, and since Congress had not delegated that power to him in legislation, he did not have the authority. The seizure, of course, was to try to stop wartime shortages with the Korean War going on. As soon as the seizure was thrown out, there followed a 52-day steel strike, which really hurt the American military and hurt the American economy. Those details are unimportant. The important point is how the Supreme Court ruled. Now, when you compare that with the immigration amnesty order, there's good news and there's bad news. The good news is that the Constitution not only does not give the president the power to control immigration, it explicitly gives it to Congress. There's a list of powers that are conferred on Congress in Article 1, and one of them is immigration and naturalization, so it's far more explicit a grant of power to Congress and not the president, rather than just the omission of the power to nationalize industry. The bad news is that the president says, "I'm not granting amnesty to anybody. I'm just simply deferring the order of deportation. I have limited resources, so I'm only going to deport these people, and I'll never get to these people because it's too long." But on the other hand, he is giving them the capacity to get work permits and provisional worker status. My own view of it is that very possibly he has the right not to deport them, but he probably does not have the right to grant them work permits and legal status. And of course, the next president can always reverse that non-deportation policy. The other difference, of course, is that because the action was brought by the steel mills, they obviously had standing to sue because the injunction took their property away from them. It's not at all clear who has the power to sue to overturn that amnesty. At the moment, the most viable lawsuit is being brought by the state of Texas. Greg Abbott, the new governor, as Attorney General, brought the suit. And Texas says, hey, we're going to have to educate these kids and provide health care and public safety. It'll be a big strain on our budget. So we have standing to be able to sue. Obama replies, you've got no increase in burden. These people are already here and you're already educating them. So how is amnesty for these immigrants going to hurt you? Texas says, yeah, but that will encourage other immigrants to come, which will further burden us. And the administration says that's speculative. So we'll have to see how the standing issue works out. But in terms of the merits of the case, the Supreme Court decision would likely indicate that the opposition to Obama has a pretty good case. Thanks for watching.